but does not give you the supply, you have to find it. Because the cost is given. Using that, you have to find supply. Let's see how it works. In the long run equilibrium, firm maximize their profit. That's the way they maximize their profit. That will give you this one. That's what the firm are doing. They're operating on their margin cost. That's what it is. 2, there should be no economic profit. That means marginal cost should be equal to the average cost. Right? So this is the marginal cost. It should be equal to the average cost, which is this one. That will give you shutdown quantity. How much is it? That's where you reach the minimum of the average cost. That's the shutdown quantity. That will give you the shutdown price, i.e. where the economic profit is 0. What do you get there? This will cancel out with this. That's 8 divided by 0.4, which is 20. All right? Now from that, if you plug it in the marginal cost, you should be able to get the shutdown price. That's the only place where there is no economic profit, i.e. you're in equilibrium. What's the shutdown price? Put it in the marginal cost. What do you get? Put this there. Get the shutdown price. What do you got? What would be the shutdown price where there's no economic profit? 920. So graphically, let's see what we did. We took the firm, look at average cost and the marginal cost, and we found the shutdown quantity and shutdown price. This is for the firm. Let's go to the market, see in the equilibrium what would be the demand. That's the market demand in the equilibrium, which should be equal to the market supply. So put 920 in the demand. Put 920 there. You're going to get 10,800. That's how much demand and supply will be in the long run equilibrium. Now we can get the number of firms. The number of firms will be, the overall supply is 10,800, each producing 20. So how many firms will be there? 5? 4. That solves 4. Long run equilibrium. Right? Make sense? Okay. I did not graph the market supply. If you graph the market supply, how does it look like? The market supply is just individual supply, stacked up 540 times. So it looks very much like this one. That's the market supply. I didn't graph it, but if you graph it, it looks exactly like individual supply. It just stacked up 540. Make sense? Right? Okay. Anyway, let me add a part to it. Suppose you're in equilibrium currently, everything is fine, but the demand shifts out to this. All up and down. Suppose the demand shifts out. All up and down. That's the new demand. This is our new demand now, which is higher than the old one. What happens then? The price will go what the firm produces. Well, that's the price and that's the average cost. This will be economic profit. The firm will generate economic profit because the price is going up, right? What will be then? So at the new price, there's economic profit. What will happen then? New firms will join in. They drive the supply out such that no economic profit exists. So if the demand is this one, at the shutdown price, the amount demanded will be 20,800, which should be equal to the new supply. That will give us the new number of firms, which should be 20,800 divided by 20, that is 1,040, I guess. Fine. So the number of entrants becomes, that's the new number of firms, that is what you had before, that is the number of firms that will join in. Right? Make sense? Okay. The way I solved it, I sort of semi-cheated. I could have calculated this one. I didn't. I just calculated this and that. I did not go for interim equilibrium. So when we say in the long run there is no profit, in the equilibrium there is no profit. You can make money if there's a shock. Okay, you lose money if there's a shock, depending on the type of shock. So in the equilibrium there is no money. I just went to the equilibrium side. I ignored this point. I basically went from 1 to 3. I ignored post-shock equilibrium. I basically went for when dust settles, when firms join in. Right? Technically, you should be able to calculate for it too, but we never do it. That's not really the equilibrium. There's economic profit there, but you can calculate the price there, the profit. You can calculate all the numbers, but normally we don't do it. Try it as your own exercise. See what happened right after the shock. Before, 500 more firms join in. See if you can do it. But it's doable. We can actually calculate 0.2, but we don't do it. Make sense? So, when we say there is no economic profit in the long run, it's just in equilibrium. And we're never in equilibrium. There's always shocks. You mentioned out and in. There's always money to be made, money to be lost. In equilibrium, there is no. Right? Okay. Anyway, that is question 6. That's a very nice one. I put check marks on it. Once it was on a final, I don't think this is on your. This is not on your quiz. It might be next week though. Number 5 version is on your quiz, not number 6. The last one, this is a nice one too. This is a very nice one. This one was the final too, but it's not on the quiz either. This is, I think, on the next quiz. So learn it, it will show up. That's the next quiz. This is sort of an attempt to find producer surplus in the short run where the supply is not straight line. If the supply is not straight line, the variable profit, that's the producer surplus, and variable profit is total revenue minus variable cost. That's sort of an attempt to use that one because when you solve it, you'll see the supply is not a straight line, you cannot use the graph to solve it. Right? So let's solve it. That's the production. We want to find short-term supply. For that, we need short-term production. So short-term production is found by plugging for the capital. This would be 3. Because the capital is 9. So I found the short-term production. From it, I got L isolated and solved. So I found labor as a function of quantity. That should allow me to find the short-run cost. The short-run cost is WL, that's the L, plus RK, that's R, that's K. Right? I found my cost. See, in the short run, you don't optimize, you just substitute, as we had last session. This is fixed cost. This is variable cost. So I have a formula for this one. That's the reason you can always use that one, because there's a formula for it. Right? I can find the variable cost by plugging for Q. But I need to find the supply first, because I want to find how much the firm produces when the price is 2, so I have to find the supply. I need to put P equal to MC, that will become my inverse supply, and use that one. So I need to take a derivative here. I will take a derivative of the power function. You take the power, you multiply the derivative inside, that's the derivative inside, and you write the rest. You just reduce the power by 1. Remember that? So I took a power, multiply by the derivative of this one, roll the rest, the power is less. That's the way to take the derivative, right? Make sense? Okay. So now I have to solve it a bit. This will go away with this. Then I can write it this way. I run this through. That would be 1 minus 3q minus half. Or you can write it this way. That is my inverse supply. I know I have to identify the shutdown price, but we don't really need it here. The question doesn't ask fund supply. It just says fund surplus. Right? That is my supply. I ignore the shutdown price here, we don't need it. Okay. The question says the price is 2. If the price is 2, what would be the quantity? But this is 2. How much is Q? Anyone? Well, you can actually solve it, but you can solve it, but not really solving it. You can say, for that to be 2, this has to be how much? It has to be half. If you want this to be 2, that 4 should be multiplied by half. Right? So how much this should be? Half. So how much this should be? 6. So what is Q? What is Q? How much? 36. 36. I didn't really solve it. I just cheated a little bit. You can solve it. You have the price, you solve the other side. I cheated. I said this is 2, I want that to be half, so Q should be 36. Right? So now I can get the total revenue that I need for the surplus, that is 2 multiplied by 36, that is 70. I got the total revenue. Right? The variable cost, I can find it because I have a function for it. That's the variable cost. That's the variable cost. If Q is 36, what's the variable cost? If Q is 36, what's the variable cost? This will be 6. That will be 3, 9, 36. This will be 36. Right? So the producer surplus, which is variable profit, which is total revenue minus variable cost, should be 72 minus 36. I've got the surplus without integration through totals. Right? Make sense? So if you end up with a case where the supply is not straight line, that's the only way you get the surplus. Unless you want to do complicated. Here I have all the information. I could have calculated the actual profit. What's the actual profit? That's the variable profit minus fixed cost, right? Which is 36 minus how much? What's the fixed cost? 9. So economic profit there. Firm will join in, right? So the question is asked you, but in the long run, firm will come in. There's economic profit, there's profit there. Right? Although the question is asked, but you have the full cost structure, you can say the profit is positive, firm will join in. Anyway, let's see what I did graphically to calculate the producer stuff. This is what I did. The inverse supply looks like this. I got the price, which is 2. I calculated the quantity, which is 36. Based on that supply, this should be the surplus. This should be the surplus. But to get it from the marginal cost, I need to integrate it, which is very hard to do. It's not straight line. So instead, I did this. Instead, I got this area first. This area first. What's the green area? What is that green area? That's total revenue. That's the total revenue, right? So I got the total revenue. That's the green area. Then I had a formula for this. What is that area? What is this area? This is variable. I have a formula for it. So I did it because I have a formula for it that don't require integration. So basically, instead of calculating that area directly, I took total revenue, I got that area subtracted from it to end up with surplus, which was, that is what I found as a result. Make sense? So I backdoored the calculation. You can get the surplus 2 ways, from margins, from totals. Totals is always doable. Margins, it will be only doable if the supply is straight line. Otherwise, you have to do integration. Make sense? Okay. Anyway, that is lecture 9, 10, 11. Mathematics of it is like AO2. There's no derivative, anything like that. It becomes just calculation, well, it becomes subtraction, addition, multiplication. That makes it easier, but there's a lot of concepts. So the easiest part of the course is coming. It doesn't mean you do the best in it though, but the easiest part technically is coming. The course actually dives down. It doesn't become harder